2 years ago, my girlfriend and I began conducting monthly evaluations to be able to track the progress on our goals. Since then, we've tweaked and improved the framework we use for these monthly evaluations to also discuss how we're doing overall and do a proper check-in on all aspects of our lives. It's kind of like one-to-one couples therapy, and it's fantastic. We highly recommend everyone does it, especially with a significant other, but it could also be with a close friend or family member. Personally, we make it into a date night. For once a month, we set aside 3 to 4 hours to be able to take the time to listen to each other, to ask the important questions, and take notes to be able to follow along how we're progressing month over month. So in today's video, the goal is to talk about, well, what we discuss in these monthly evaluations, how we've tweaked it to really be a more holistic approach, and what we've learned and what we've gone out of it over the last 24 months of doing this exercise. Every monthly evaluation starts off with a simple question. How was your month? Now, this question is very open and could lead in a bunch of different directions, but we find it's important to start there just to see overall how the person's feeling. Some months are good, some months are less good, and some months can be very rough. It's a good benchmark to track over time and just seeing what elements are most impactful in determining the quality of the month. Sometimes it could be a rough month because work was harder, or sometimes it was a great month because, well, we traveled for many weeks on end. Seeing what elements come up can give ideas of what's great and what's not great, and being able to improve them over time. The second question is, what were the highlights of the month? Generally, these are positive things, but you could also include the downward highlights, if that's a thing, the downlights. Anyways, the most impactful moments of the month. What's interesting, especially when you're in a couple, most of the highlights are shared, but it's interesting to see what your partner has viewed as a highlight of the month and what you view as well as a highlight of the month. And it's really a moment of gratitude to be able to appreciate the moments we're able to live over the last month and reminisce over those good times. So the second part of the evaluation is a look back at the month, where we ask our partner what they wanted to focus on and if they accomplished it, what they wanted to learn and if they learned it, and what they were excited about and if it actually happened. So this, at the end of each monthly evaluation, we ask these questions looking forward, but the following month we do it retroactively. So for example, let's say I said I wanted to focus on posting 4 times on LinkedIn in the coming month. Well, the following month we would look back and see, did I take any action on the focus areas I had mentioned the previous month, and where are we at now today, and is there still stuff to be done to be able to mark that as done. For what did you learn? That's pretty easy. We see what the person mentioned and see if they learnt it, and generally sharing some of their top learnings. And finally, what you were excited about, just listing off the things that the person had mentioned and seeing if it was akin to how they imagined that going and if it played out the way they wanted it to play out. The third section is an evaluation of the month, where we broke it down into 4 areas, being work, relationships, health, and fun. Now, for your evaluation of the month, feel free to break it down into whichever areas feel most relevant to you, but for us, this is what made the most sense. Now, the questions can be really open-ended. For work is, well, how was work? Because it's our partner, we know in general if it's going well or less well, what they wanted to focus on work-wise over the past month, and being able to see if they accomplished those things. Sometimes we tend to forget some elements of what happened in the last month, and our partner's there to remind us of the wins, but also maybe the challenges or the struggles we've had over the past month. In terms of relationships, well, it's a good time to speak about our own personal relationship with one another, speaking about the relationship we have with our family, and the relationships we have with our friends and community. In terms of health, this is both mental health, but also physical health, just checking in with one another, seeing how we're feeling, if there's anything we want to change, if there's been any health problems or even health scares over the past month, and just being able to track that over time. And then finally, in terms of fun, well, what were just some other highlights? Sometimes it becomes redundant with highlights of the month because generally fun comes into it, but it's really important for us to track, well, what is leading to fun moments in the month, and really try to foster an environment to be able to have that happen as often as possible. The fourth section, and the reason we started doing this monthly evaluation in the first place, is to track our progress on our goals. So here we simply list out the 4 to 7 annual goals we have, and month over month, seeing what actions we took to be able to make progress on them. Some months, not much progress is being made on some goals. Other times we made tons of progress, and it could almost be considered done in advance, and now we're doing more of a stretch goal. But we're really holding ourselves accountable to one another, and that's why we started doing it, just versus setting an annual goal, setting and forgetting it type of thing. Well, now every month we have someone asking us sometimes challenging questions to see, well, maybe why is something not moving forward? What are the blockers we have? How we could help one another out to be able to move forward and really act as a coach. So that was the main idea. And if you want, I did a video on my goal setting practice in general that you could check out. I'll link it at the end of this video. But it's really been a great tool to help us move forward and keep our goals top of mind throughout the year, to be able to achieve more of them and to have fun doing so. And the final section is the action items. So like I mentioned in section 2, these are the things now forward looking for the next month, where we discuss what we want to focus on, what we want to learn, and what we're excited about. Sometimes it's a very short list, other months it's a very long list. It's really just 3 areas that we find are important and have helped us structure our month for the next step in this evaluation, which is our monthly planning. So once the evaluation is done, we take out a big calendar and lay it out to see what's coming up in the month. First, we lay out what we already have planned, but then look at the days where it might be empty on the calendar and think of what else we want to do. Depending on the season, this might be, well, winter sports in the winter, or when spring comes around to get outside and do more outdoor activities. If a new movie's coming out, we might want to schedule to go to the movies or go to the theater or a comedy show. Whatever the case may be, once a month, we really take the time to lay out what all the possibilities are of what we can do in the coming month, and set aside time to make stuff actually happen. For example, a date night at the restaurant. It's nice to think of doing, but weeks go by and then months go by, and then sometimes you don't actually make it happen. So we make sure we set in the calendar, book the restaurant if you need to book the restaurant, and then it's going to happen. So overall, after I've been doing this for 2 years now, it's really a great exercise because, well, it helps us being more intentional with our time, especially on a forward-looking perspective. We're really able to dedicate our energy towards what's most important to us and set time for it, but also make sure we're following up on our goals. For any areas in our life that are maybe lacking, we're able to spend that energy intelligently on those areas and make progress and just feel better overall. It helps us also check in with one another, and really that active listening part is fundamental, because as the month goes by, maybe some things are mentioned from one another. Once again, here, especially in the context of a couple, but it could be with a family member or a friend. But taking the time to really listen to what might have seemed as a small issue, but it's really important for the other person. Well, to having that space, that safe space to discuss it and to consider it as valid and hear that person out, to being able to work on it, whatever that thing may be. And finally, it helps us align focus, stay motivated and accountable with one another. So it's really that idea of continual progress, continual growth, and having a partner that you don't feel alone in these ambitious goals, or even the small mundane things in life, to be able to have someone that's there to encourage you and to move forward with. So I hope this video gave you an idea of how a monthly evaluation can be conducted, sharing this now 3rd iteration of the framework we use. It might still evolve and change over time, but it should give a good basis for you to start, at least that we've, molded over and thought of what are the main things that should be discussed in monthly evaluation. If you think we're forgetting anything, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. But I hope you'll give it a shot. It's really valuable over time. Doing it with the same person month over month, you're able to really see how that person's doing, and it's really interesting to look back 6 months, 12 months down the road and seeing the evolution, especially just with that first question. How are you doing? How was your month? And seeing how, depending on different variables, whether that be work, relationships, health, financial, how that impacts your month, and how by changing certain things, the overall outcome goes for the better or for the worse. But I encourage you to give it a shot, and if you want to learn more about how I set goals, well, I made a video here called Goal Setting 101 that discusses my framework of annual goal setting, but also goals for the next 10 years and for life. So check it out, and if you like this, well, feel free to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.